Hello everyone, it's mysticjuicer back with some more Yomi action. I'm continuing my casts of my International Yomi League Season 4 games. This one is me versus FaceOnMars. Newer player, new to the Yomi scene, got his start in the Men Tournament. I believe he was mentored by Legion. So I'm definitely... I've had some bad experience facing Vendettas who are who are fairly new to the game. Sometimes those players are, doesn't afraid of anything, and then they just explode your face with throws you're not expecting and damage when you're not expecting it. So I'm gonna play these first few combats fairly cautiously, and get 7 thrown there. That's actually, so that's, little stuff like that is just an indicator that a player has a little bit less experience under their belts. Sevens, excuse me, 7s are so valuable for Vendetta in this matchup as a way of hedging and or diffusing entirely the threat of rock armor. So, and against grapplers in general, there's really no reason to prefer to throw with any of the throws that you have available. They're all essentially speed loses to what the grappler throws, because that's just the nature of the grappler design, right? As you can see from my hand, Rook has a 2, a 6, and a 7, and all of those are faster than any of the throws that Vendetta has. So there's really no reason for him to spend something more valuable, spend a card that's more valuable on the other side, which is that ability to tack a 7 onto the end of any winning combat and knock your opponent down, removing the threat of rock armor. Especially a character with 75 health. That's a very significant ability, and you don't want to give it up easily. So I managed to throw another 7 throw, and the nice thing about the 7 as a poke as well is that even if you hit it, like if you get it blocked or you manage to poke out a throw or an attack with it, it's going to return right back to your hand. And if it managed to beat an attack or a throw, which is very likely in this kind of matchup, since the only attacks that beat it from Rook's side are Jack, Queen, and Ace Ace. You just get it right back. So it's a very, very safe move to play throughout the entire game. Okay, so he blocks his way up with a 6. Generally, I expect from most Vendettas to see a mix of basically 2 poke, 5 poke, and 6 poke. 2 poke to basically undercut anything that they want to, specifically 4s. Trades with jacks, which isn't great, but it also keeps queens as a combat reveal at a minimum, and 9 damage off a single card to a 75 health character is quite significant. So I try to catch a poke here, set myself up for a good rock armor turn, but no dice. We've got 12 card Vendetta staring me in the face. I expect a throw is going to be incredibly likely here, so I want to try to counter throw. Especially since he hasn't been doing a ton of poking. Giving it some thought. The thing about a character like Vendetta 2 is that he has such specific types of cards. All of his face cards do a very specific thing. So even with a 12-card hand, if he doesn't have jacks or queens, then a poke is not going to lead into a ton of damage anyway. So I'm going to try to see if I can feel out. I was hoping to catch more blocks or a throw or something. Instead, I get hit with the max damage. Or rather, not entirely max damage, because he's not going to pump this jack entirely, which is a little bit confusing to me. There's really no reason not to get the free damage out there. Unless that 9-card hand is very, very, very specific in what's in it. So given that he didn't fully pump, and given that he already got a bunch of cards out of his hand, I'm going to try go for a throw here, and do land it. So I feel like I've made an okay read on the state of things. The unfortunate thing is I threw with the 7 there instead of the 6. I should probably have thrown with the 6, because Jack 7 8 is much more likely to be a really good combo that I can hit later in the game. And he's already at 55 health. That's 20. So we would be a third of the way there if that combo landed. So my options here are cross-up attempt, really only 4, 5, 6, or like 8 into queen. Throw or a block. Again, in a first game situation, I'm really trying to feel out what he's doing. I want to discourage like wake-up throws and stuff like that. At this point, wake-up kidney shot into a bunch of damage is perfectly legitimate. There's a lot of pressure on Rook in that situation. Not to push a button and to block. So I thought I'd try to go for the throw duff. So there he used the 7. He got the rock armor counter. He hasn't shown that he's got a king yet. So I'm just going to try to block the known 2 and instead get thrown on my ass by that king. So nicely played by FaceOnMars. If he made the assessment that I was much, much, much more likely to block there than ordinarily, that was a very, very good call. I am going to try to discourage that kind of behavior in the future, though. So we're going to wake up with this 10 real quick. See if we can catch the second king throw attempt. And we do. Feel pretty good about that. That is why Serlin gave us 10 attacks to duff throws with maximum prejudice. So that's a great trade for me. Even though I don't end up dealing any damage and sort of catching up in the life, in terms of life situation, I still just traded a 10 for 3 fairly valuable cards. Like, trading a 10 for a king is already great, but then I basically got to deal damage directly to his hand rather than to his face. So we get poked with this 2, but I don't expect this to lead into a tremendous amount of damage, considering he has been going for king throws fairly often, rather than cross-up attempt into something more damaging. Okay, so spends the 4th 7. Again, not tremendous amount of value here, unless... I mean, it makes me think that he might have another king. So we're going to try to duff that. He certainly doesn't know about my other king now. I can safely throw him. Unfortunately, I am very, very wrong. And he deals 50% of my remaining health. With that king, and he's going to be able to get that back. So he can't get knocked down here, but he can still combo this into a jack for lethal. So I'm going to spend something to at least make him think about it. I haven't found a joker yet, so I am able to make him respect that at least. Basically have to rock armor here just to keep the health sort of competitive. Yeah, the jack and the 5. I mean, the 5 would have been nice to keep if I think that he's going to go for a throw attempt of some kind. Cash in for 18. And because we're grappler, we still have all the tools to be able to play a non-exploitable kind of range. We can block any attacks that we feel are coming, and then we can counter throw any throw attempts. But he does the safe thing, just goes for the 2 poke, is willing to let me build hand for the chance that I'm going to throw so that he can clean this out, or close this out. And he does, finding 3 queen, and that is lethal. So game 1 to FaceOnMars. I've got to take a second to think about what, if anything, I've learned from that. He played a really good mix-up game when he had me on the ground. As rook, you really have to, unless you have ace-ace or joker in hand, you have to make a hard call on whether they're going to go for a cross-up attempt or play the king attack side, or if they're going to try to throw you. And if they're going to try to throw you, then you've got to wake up with a big beefy button and hope you're right. In some situations, it's actually totally fine, I feel like, to wake up with a 10 attack anyway, even if you're expecting the king attack or a 2 attack, because then it forces them to go for less damage and tack on a 7 and spend the 7 to get it out of their hand. So it's kind of like a mini joker that you're playing, like the threat of rock armor is a mini joker that you've got. Or they decide to, they may decide to go and cash out the damage, in which case if you can rock armor 24 damage, even though you're dealing less damage than the Vendetta player, you're dealing it to a much softer body. So can still be quite a good trade for you anyways. Which is why some Vendetta players will hedge their bets and just play a dodge, because the overwhelming pressure on the rook player is to block or attack. Both of which, like, dodge basically ties one and beats the other, so can be quite a good mix-up as well. So first turn throw. He is a Vendetta player, I feel, at this point, that likes to build. So we're going to prevent that from happening. Go for a 10 throw on knockdown. Basically spending a not too valuable card in the early game here just to cash in some damage and extend a bit of a lead. 10 throwing is, I feel, perfectly legitimate as rook. Of course, I say that as a rook player who 10 throws, so, you know, take that with a grain of salt. So at this point, I feel like I should test whether he's going to keep blocking and just go for the 6 attack. He does decide to poke this out, and there's really nothing I can do at this. This is just a lost combat. I can't afford to rock armor here. That would put me at 4 cards, even if I get the ace off of 6, 7, 8. Then I'm going to be stuck with a jack, a queen, an ace, and a mystery card. So not great. Not a single block, most specifically. So not an option. Not something I can actually do. I do consider it because I am probably slightly tilted from the first game. I can't remember exactly, or maybe I just want to give a thought to what my plan is for the next turn. So I've got 2 pairs. I can turn those into 2 aces. Found a king finally, which is very, very nice. Yeah, we're going to go for the queen def here because I noticed he went for an attack with a 3 rather than the 2, and there's really no reason to prefer the 3 over the 2 for any reason. They both lose to king, so I figure he probably just doesn't have an attack that's faster than the 3 that he's willing to spend in neutral. So go for the queen def, and again, trading 1 card for 3, putting him at 3 cards in hand. We're just going to block here. I don't like king throwing in this situation. If I'm going to throw here, it's going to be a normal throw. just because the 3 poke becomes a little bit stronger. And he actually went for the 2 dodge in that situation. So kind of an awkward hand that he's stuck on. This is an excellent place for me to king throw him. He has not shown any kind of willingness to play 5 and 6 attacks in neutral yet, which is kind of the general Vendetta poke range, is either a 2... Yeah, no 5s, please. No 5s. Yeah, they're either playing a 2 to poke out, you know, queens, 6s, 4s, or whatever, or they're playing 5s and 6s to hedge against any kind of throw, including king. So we land 15 damage. On a low card hand, he might have been entirely checkmated. If he's got, you know, his... well, he had the 5, so he could have played the 5 there to defend himself. I'm going to keep throwing him here. It's very, you know, high likelihood that I am going to get poked out. Do find a king throw, which is very, very nice combat win. Getting rid of those tools is incredibly valuable for the rook player, definitely. But I'm not too worried. I'm willing to keep throwing because I'm not too worried about getting poked, because it's just not going to hurt that much. He doesn't have a ton of stuff in his hand. So, you know, he's going to combo a 2 into a 3, that's fine with me. He's going to combo a 5 into a 6, that's totally fine with me. It's all fine. Unless his hand is 3 aces, and even then, it'd be pretty even life, and I would still have the hand advantage with a much better quality of hand. Going for the 8 cross-up attempt, because again, I don't really care about being poked here. I have the pressure. He's on very, very low health total. I can afford to go in. Just working out how much it's going to do if I leave him at... if I go for the 10th, the throw ender side. But I do want to put him below 10 health. Very, very valuable, very valuable health total to put your opponent at as a rook, especially if you're a rook with no king throw in hand. So if I had a king throw, I would absolutely play it here, because again, going lower on cards to put somebody at below 10 probably indicates you don't have it. So if I drew the 10 or drew the king, I would definitely go for it. So we're going to go for the throw because we do have the threat of ace-ace, and close that game out nicely. Walk up throw. Yep, walk up throw all day. Got to do it. If your opponent is never going to poke you, you've got to do it. You can't afford to let them out for free. And you definitely don't want to get thrown to the ground and put into the K vortex when you've got them at a very low hand size. So rematch as rook. Not exactly sure what FaceOnMars, like I know he's played a couple of other characters, but I'm not sure exactly what I'm expecting, so that is why I went with my main. I did do a bit of scouting in the matchup chart to make sure that he's not a known Geiger or BBB player, in which case I might have had to consider opening with Onimaru instead. Yeah, I did. I mean, he is a newer player. I expect everybody else to be pretty comfortable with the goon show that happens in chat. But with a newer player, I try to check in to make sure that they're still having a good time, that they're not being overly distracted or antagonized by chat. So second game was quite good. Definitely felt in control throughout that entire set. Played a more active rook range, blocked a little bit less. Yeah, no, yeah, FaceOnMars, I think you're well on your way to being scary. I don't think you have to wait a full year. Okay, so yes, rook versus Trock. Cool matchup. Kind of a delicate matchup for, I think, for the rook side, to be honest. So The rook player is afraid of Trock's throws. So he's just a little bit more worried about throwing with anything but a 2 or a king, or blocking, because Trock can throw for 16 or 20, depending on how many attached blocks he has, whereas Rook only ever throws for 10 or 15. So we open up with a 10 attack, just to see if we can push some stuff off, try to make him think twice about opening with a throw. And we get a nice little bit of a life lead, which is always great. Find ourselves a joker. We got 2 pairs. So Checkmate Buster could be right around the corner. Hearts to Bomber. So in this situation, yeah, I'm going to throw away the 4 even. I'm going to break up the pair. I'm unlikely to be powering up in the next little while. And throwing away the 4 still leaves me a... I can't afford to get rid of the 2 throw. I need that 2 throw to live. So I really, if I'm going to block, I'm going to block even with a 4 or block odd with a 9. And either of those would have lost to this 2 poke or 2 throw. So that's another thing that you will probably not see happen too often. Yeah, throw into 4 is not great. 4 throw is actually a really good button in this matchup for Trock, because of the way that Rook's throws are distributed in his deck. So both of these characters have 0.0 speed throws. So, you know, if it's on a 2, it's 2.0. If it's on a 3, it's 3.0. But Rook has his 2 throw. Trock has a 2 throw. Rook has a 3 throw, but he really likes that as a block because it's one of his special blocks. Trock has a 3 throw with a block on it, which he's perfectly happy to throw away, or to throw with, I should say. And then Trock has throws on his 4 and his 5, where Rook does not. Rook's next fastest throws are on 6 and 7. So in a longer game, it will often be the case that Rook will end up playing the non-grappler side of the matchup, playing a more block attack range than the Trock player will. Yeah, 50% yuck. 1 attached block for Trock. The grappler matchups are really interesting. Ooh, yeah, okay. Throwing with that 10 was a little bit greedy. I was much more expecting a block than a throw there. Obviously, it's much greedier than it is against other characters, non-grappler characters, I should say. And sadly, I could have had the 10 attack duff the king, which would have been beautiful, and drawn into the queen for another 20 damage punish, and then had a massive life lead to work with. So after K, sometimes you just see K come out. Sometimes, because people expect the second king to come out, you just see some kind of slow attack to duff the king, and that was what that 7 was trying to punish. I do like the playing it on the 2.2 side. I had about 7 cards. Jack 7-8 is quite a lot of damage, and would tie. So the Jack speeds are both 2.2 for both these characters, but Trox deals just slightly less than twice as much damage as Rooks does, as it is an ender, whereas Rooks are linkers. Ooh, get it K thrown again, and again, life leads, life totals just hovering, within 10 or 20 of each other throughout this match, unless somebody goes on a tear and really gets a ton of combat wins in a row. That just tends to be the way these matchups go. Very War of Attrition-y. Both characters tend to prefer to throw and block rather than attack. Just because running an attack into a grappler block is so feel bad. Like they gain so many cards, and you don't want to give Rook cards in this matchup. Rock Armor is really good against Chalk because his Queen, his Jack, which are his only like non. Well, I mean, okay, in this matchup he can afford to play like fours, fives, and sixes as combat starters. But his Queen and his Jack, which are his kind of get off me, don't play a Queen, don't play a King buttons, trade really badly with Rook's Rock Armor. Get undercut on the 3-throw attempt with the King. Very sad. Although I do have 3 9s, 2 Jacks, and an Ace, so I've got that going for me. And I do have an opponent at 55 health, so I'm definitely not out of this game. I've got a Joker. Queen lose to Queen. Again, Rook's Queen much slower. 2.6 versus 0.8, I believe, on Uphawk. Because it is a very valuable ender for Rook. Has a higher maximum damage. Try not to get thrown here. Do give him his second attached block. And now with 4 9s and a single ace, and Beast Unleashed potentially online, gonna power up for a Checkmate Buster. And now we've got to play the what is my opponent more likely to do? Is he likely to respect AA? Is he going to poke out obvious Checkmate Buster? So I play the Jack because I've got Joker backup, so I might be able to find a dodge and just remove Beast Unleashed from his hand. I'd still have a tough time getting back into the game, but then I have to worry a little bit less about just losing outright. So he's got to think about whether it's a real Joker or not. I'm about a third of the way through the deck, basically. Nearing halfway through the deck, so fairly good odds that I would have it, and I do in fact do. So he just spends a King to try to deal 15. Now I've got the same situation, except I have no safety net. So I can the nice thing about Checkmate Buster in this situation is if he's on Beast Unleashed or dodge into Beast Unleashed, then either way I come out fairly well in the exchange. Some food delivery in the background there. It's good to be king. Yeah, run headlong into the slow side of Jack. Yeah, rip, rip indeed. Get poked out, and now I've got an ugly hand with which to try to get my way back into this game. So 2 kings, which is not too bad, so that's 30 damage right there. So I just need to find 23. I have to think about what I want to give up. I know Beast Unleashed. I have to treat Beast Unleashed as real. I throw away the block there because I don't expect... Like, I expect I can deal with everything that he's likely to play here that's going to kill me, except for Ace-Ace, but that's not going to kill me. He's got 2 attached blocks. I'd be willing to try to take that trade. Luckily, he throws into the 6, so I can cash in some damage here. I am going to follow this up. I need to find damage. Need to try to reach for the stars. Huge damage. Sure. The sarcasm is real. So I believe he spent most of his 2s So if he's going for another throw, or if he goes for a 4 attack, I figure king is a fairly good option. He goes for jack instead. It's not really the loss of combat. I mean, the combat loss is bad, and taking 7 damage and going to 15 is bad, but the worst thing is just losing the king. Really need to hit everything I possibly can, win combat as hard as possible each time, and lose the next king to Beast Unleashed. So nicely done, FaceOnMars. ZQXX giving me the obligatory wrecked in chat. Okay, and now I've got to think about what I want to do. So I could go to Onimaru. I haven't actually played Onimaru versus Troc a ton. It is, I believe, a fairly good matchup. I do still have to think about what he's going to do after that if I do win. So then it's Onimaru versus Vendetta, which is an okay match as well. But I give it a think. I am going to end up going with Midori. I've been having a ton of fun with that character in the last little while. I haven't played him in a standard counterpick format tournament before. I've only used him in Deets tournaments. So Persephone's Pick Your Poison tournament, which is a very different format where you're just playing characters in bad matchups or complicated / even matchups. But I just felt it. You know, when you've got the confidence to hit the character, you should definitely pick that character. Just make the call, and I'm going to go with Midori. I'm also fairly comfortable. I've played Midori versus Vendetta more than I have Onimaru versus Vendetta. So happy to take that match as well. Okay, and we're back into it. So the nice thing about this matchup, and the reason that Midori is advantaged in this matchup against Troc, really comes down to Dragon Queen, and just his dragon attacks in general. Once Troc has Beast Unleashed online, so first of all, Dragon Queen is huge. It deals huge amounts of damage. 14 damage starter. Can lead into Jack Jack for a cool 30 off of a 0.6 speed attack, which beats all of Troc's attacks, every single one of them. And Midori's dragon moves also basically remove the dodge Beast Unleashed mix-up. So Beast Unleashed raw or dodge into Beast Unleashed, because they beat dodges. So there's just no escape. If Troc wants to deal with Dragon Queen, he's got to block. Or Gold Burst. Gold Burst is always an option. Yeah, starting 4 attack 100% of the time. I won't say 100% of the time, but it is a high likelihood that a Midori player is going to start with a 4. So we're going to throw away the 9 dodge. Ordinarily a very valuable card for Midori. And it is in this matchup as well. But I'm happy to throw it away because it's early in the game, and I don't need all 8 dodges. I can definitely get away with dodging fewer amounts of... I'm going to pull the trigger way earlier than, the 8th dodge in my deck. For Final Dragon Buster. So, use the Joker to put aces in my hand. Start threatening that option. Just keeping even attacks, because I'm just going to wake up with a 5 here. He has thrown me a fair amount on knockdown. Or he's been aggressive on knockdown. He's either thrown or he's attacked or something. And 5 is a great speed move. 5.2 speed, basically loses only to Jack, Queen, and 4, none of which deal a tremendous amount of damage. Gets us an additional card. And I've got 2 2s very, very early on in the game, which is fantastic. I'm going to go into Dragon form. I don't yet have Final Dragon Buster, and I'm not going to pull the Final Dragon Buster trigger until I have all 4 aces in hand, because 36 is just not as good as 52 damage. And we get the block off, which is great, because he's probably expecting me to immediately mash Final Dragon Buster, especially with last game where I didn't pull the trigger on CMB, and he was able to dodge successfully against me. So we'll get the 7 back from the discard so that I can power up for the last ace, and now we have Final Dragon Buster online. And the reason I can confidently block in dragon form against another grappler is, first of all, none of his throws are going to be king or ace-ace, and he knows I have ace-ace. And second of all, I have the second dragon form already in hand, so I can afford to slow roll this and try to poke out blocks and go for dodges and stuff, because even if he throws me, I still have a way to get back into dragon form and go for FDB. So all we're trying to do here is trying to hit 52. I'm going to end up discarding the 10, because I don't need dodges while knocked down, and I think it's fairly likely that he's going to try attacking me. And if we get a successful even block off, then we just get it back. And even if he attacks with a 5 or a 7 here, I don't get knocked down, so I don't lose dragon form. I still have a block. Everything's fine. Immediately get the 10 back. 10s are good. 10s are dodges. We're going to want those dodges. Draw Dragon Queen. And Dragon Queen into 8 is a respectable 22 damage. Yeah. Man, getting cards back in dragon form, so good. And putting the Dragon Queen in discard also increases the amount of pressure on FaceOnMars to make the right choice of either attacking and risking attacking into a block and me getting the queen back, or playing something that isn't attack and getting Final Dragon Bustered for 52. And now that I've got 3 aces in hand, it's pretty likely that I'm going to pull the Final Dragon Buster trigger. Get rid of the dodge again. I can seriously consider waking up with ace-ace, but instead go for maximum throw. We punish another king. So kings just have not a great track record in this particular set, and no face down. Always face down. Make the Midori player think about whether they're willing to risk losing that valuable move. That is 32 damage that you are forcing them to think about whether they want to take, or whether they want to risk losing into that. And with 3 8s in hand, I might have just decided to go for 20 damage instead, and then powered up for the 4 aces. So we dragon throw, because ace-ace is not lethal. And now we've got him at 7 health. We just keep drawing like great cards. And we're just going to play cards that aren't the ones that we have. Yeah, go for Final Dragon Buster here, and we get jacked out. But again, I'm still in dragon form. I've got a 2, I've got a 4. If I draw another block, I can afford to block next turn. Get the queen back. I can dodge into lethal. Like, all of these things are options. Yeah, at this point, I can go for the block. It doesn't matter too much because I've still got the 10, so I can dodge my way into lethal. I got the fork if I want to, or the 4 if I want to poke. Or as a throw isn't too bad. Again, it loses to all the same stuff that any other throw would lose to, so if I think he's going to sit back and block for a little while. That's fine too. He puts ace-ace in his hand. Beast Unleashed is not real. Wow. Draw the the third 2 of the set, and I'm only like 20 cards in. So much luck. Very luck, wow. Go for the throw, because I think he might dodge or something. And we undercut the 5 throw, which is very lucky for us, and close it out. So, 2-2. Hug him! 2-2, and we're going to go back to character select. So I don't know if he's going to stick with Troc. Probably not. That was, again, pretty rough match for him. So probably going to see Vendetta. I'm really hoping I don't run into Sudden Geiger or some matchup I don't know too much about. I'm fairly confident that we're going to see Vendetta, and I'm okay playing that matchup. It was a little too much cowbell. Oh yeah, this is the last one. Yeah, so this is the whole set riding on it. Yeah, back to Vendetta. So here we have a much more classic set of decisions for me to make in this matchup. Yeah, yeah, I'm nobody alluding to the fact that this is in fact considered among most people to be a good matchup for Midori. Which is also a reason why I picked him against Troc. So Midori is a very good matchup against Troc, and then if we switch back to Midori versus Vendetta, then I'm also comfortable playing that. So I land the first turn throw. I'm not going to follow that up. I believe it's more important in the early game just to get knocked down and just to deal 8 damage and with a single card. Going to a low hand into a low hand situation can be quite ugly for Midori, and I'm much less comfortable doing it than as Rook. So I prefer to play it a little bit more conservative. Don't know why I'm spinning that 9 around to a throw. I'm definitely not doing that. Yeah, go for the 4th throw just to see if I can get some more payoff, and then we'll see what combo here. I'm kind of interested. I'm not face downing because I think this early it's too likely, yeah, that is going to happen. Where Vendetta is just going to poke and build a hand because he doesn't have the tools necessary to really go in. Wake up, low jab. Yeah, Yomi confirmed SF5. So I'm going to go for a throw again because he's just poked once. He didn't put anything behind it, so I'm okay to get poked again if he's willing to do it. Instead, catch a dodge attempt. Kind of an odd place to dodge, I feel like. Especially against a character like Midori, and this is hugely valuable to me. That is massively good. Going 6 card to 6 card against Vendetta, perfectly fine with me. So the nice thing about this matchup too is that on these acro turns, it's basically on Midori's end a decision between Dragon Jack or Throw, because Dragon Jack will beat everything. The only thing that either of those will lose, both of those will lose to, is Gold Burst. So if you have a feeling that it's not, it's not likely to be a Gold Burst, then you can safely play one of those 2 options. Kind of odd to see. I think this is inexperience showing on FaceOnMars' part again. Dodging against Midori is just generally bad because it opens you up to tons of dragon damage. And this early in the game, you definitely want to be blocking instead of dodging. It could indicate that he has a king and he wants to get that on the table, but there's almost no chance that Midori is going to go for attacks in neutral. It's just too risky. There's nothing that his attacks are really going to beat that his throws wouldn't. Like, his throws and attacks are basically the same thing in neutral. They lose to the same kind of stuff, and they beat the same kind of stuff. And there's way more payoff for Midori to successfully throw than there is for a successful attack. Until aces come online, until that kind of stuff is is made real. So I'm gathering up some nice dragon cards. I am knocked down, and he has been playing, if I'm paying attention, he has been playing like King is real. So I can probably wake up Queen here. Yeah, and it would have been the correct play to make. But instead just get thrown, and that's fine. So I don't believe at the time, I think I was surprised about that coming out. In retrospect, it makes a lot more sense to me. Looking back on it now, given those dodges, I thought the dodges were just inexperience. And they are, because they're very unlikely to be successful. But I should have also taken them as an indicator that he wants to dodge into something, presumably. And it's either 3 aces or king, and it's much more likely to be king. Okay, so he switches it up and goes for a 2 poke. Hit him with the queen. Get that 10 damage in. No real reason for me to flip that around. I don't have 7-8 or even 6-7. And queen, or sorry, I don't have 2 jacks, and I don't really want to spend the 8. Because it doesn't put him in a situation that isn't, different. It's just not, I don't feel it's valuable to give up a card that I could later power up for aces. Gotta get those aces, man. Aces for days. So we're back in neutral. He's still got that king. So I think I'm going to try to counter throw it. I got rid of his 2 poke, so yep, managed to find the king throw. There we go. And at this point, with 60 health remaining, I can I can think about cashing in that 8, and I will. Putting him at near 220s. Just grapplers having a fairly good time of being able to hit that kind of damage in 2 combats, essentially. Not that I have that. I definitely don't. But I have plenty of dodges. And I have Dragon Form if I really want to spend it. But I've only got Jack to really do anything in Dragon Form. No throws at all. So I'd rather wait until I get some kings or some aces or something I can power up. He has played 1 acrobatics so far, I believe. 1, maybe 2. I think it's just 1. So as many of those as we can get rid of, the happier we'll be. Drawing a lot of pairs. I really wish I could get a triple of some kind. 3 6s, 3 9s, or 3 10s. I would only hesitate about powering up the 10s. I would definitely power up the 6s and the 9s. Yeah, just gonna block some more. Find some more cards. We don't really have the tools to go in. Vendetta's 2 attack, notably, 2.2 speed, which is faster than Dragon Jack or Human Jack. Okay, there we go. Now we're gonna get some aces online. So we have 20 damage on deck. We have Jack into 7, Jack into 4-5 for 17, and then Ace for 20. It's kind of an awkward. We're gonna go for Dragon Jack. See if we can catch a greedy first Dragon Form throw. So I know he has the 2. 2 is still very safe. The only thing it loses to is Dragon Queen. Okay, elects to safely block. But that was our plan all along. Yeah, yeah. Get him to sub 40. There we go. Now we can just ace him twice, and we're fine. Okay, we draw into queen. So we just played the dragon jack, which we wouldn't have if we had the queen, or so the saying goes. So we're definitely going to play the queen now. And luckily, it works as intended, and we beat a 2, unless he decides to acrobatics here. If he has it, he should definitely acrobatics. Yeah. Okay, so he's still at 9 cards. Again, we got that situation where he's got to think about whether he wants to lose to Dragon Jack or block and lose to my known final Dragon Buster. Oh, I am nobody. Yep. So we're just going to block. It's a safer thing to do. I think it's fairly unlikely that he's going to throw here. Okay, he gets rid of a 2 because of timer. We draw another dragon form, immediately block, because now we're completely safe. If he throws us, we're fine. We've got Joker in case he throws us with a kidney shot. So we have everything we need. We're just going to hunker down and get more cards. Dragon King. We're going to need 1 less ace in our lives, because Dragon King deals 17, and the 3rd and 4th ace after in Final Dragon Buster are both 16. Yeah, like, no, I should have thrown, why? I blocked twice in a row. He's going to switch the pattern. Yeah, so immediate Joker here. I don't want to make this close. So I'm happy to be just thrown and sit in neutral, or I'm happy to get rid of a bunch of cards from his hand. Okay, so he does knock me down. But I do get 2 additional cards. More Dragon Kings. So we definitely have lethal in hand now. Gentlemen, we have lethal. Now, notably, you cannot wake up with Dragon Jack here, because Vendetta's king is 1.0 speed, and Midori's king is 1.4. So Vendetta is still the grappler in this position. Yeah, thinking about going into dragon form. I want to hold on to it because I really still feel like I need the pressure of Final Dragon Buster. Okay, no, I decided to go for it. Make a hard call on more likely to see the throw or cross-up attempt. Okay, he does get rid of it. But again, now he's going down to kind of an ugly hand size. I'm unable to... I would have definitely gone into dragon form here. But unfortunately, I am unable to. Because he skips the entire turn. And part of that turn is the draw step. So we land the 4 attack. I played the 4 attack because it beats any kind of move that he's going to make. Notably, 2 from Vendetta is 4.2 speed in that situation, and so we'd essentially just bounce off each other. Yeah, I don't want to give him cards. I'm perfectly fine him being at 35 health. So there was really, unless he didn't face down, there was no way I was following that up. Especially him being basically halfway through his deck. It's very, very likely. Yeah, he does not want to be thrown. Learn from this. So he pokes out a king. I'm still not out of the woods here. This can lead into good damage. Okay. So 12 damage and knockdown. Try to defend myself. I think that all the 2s are gone, so I'm just going to defend myself against a cross-up attempt. I'm going to go for Jack into 4 and 5. Because, hey, it's damage, and I've got all the throws I need in that 3. Okay, goes for kidney shot. Gets hit with the Jack. Now we're going to follow up. Yeah. I think it's fairly safe to say he doesn't have another joker. He's got a fairly low hand. Put him at 17, which is lethal range to Dragon King. I have 2 10s. So I'm in a good spot. Basically thinking about, do I Jack or do I Dragon King here? Notably, Jack would lead into 16 damage maximum, which is just short of lethal. But he's been counter-poking my throws. But I'm trying to go for lethal here. Yeah, get 5 poked. So I lose the king. Potentially eat a bunch of damage here. Briefly consider face downing, but I don't think he's got too much fuel in hand. Yeah, just the 5 poke. Again, I've got 3 dodges in hand. I can dodge into throw to put him at 1. Opt to go for Dragon. Jack into 7. Find the 3. Definitely follow up into the 7. Put him at 1. If I draw a queen, we're putting it on the table. I could power up the 3s and the 10s for 2 aces to threaten both sides of the... Yeah, I'm going to decide to do that. Because we still have a dodge at the end of the day. I don't know why I power up... I guess I don't really need the blocks at this point. Yeah, okay. I was about to say, it's really questionable if I had just powered up for 1 ace. It doesn't really make any sense at all. Stonewall. Yeah, immediate dodge. No reason to risk it. I think he's going to try to poke out double ace. And if he doesn't, I have ace-ace in neutral as an attack, which is a really good position to be. He's got to dodge all the time, basically. We get our way around, ace-ace, and we're just going to play the normal dodge, normal throw here, just in case it is a joker. Nope, doesn't end up face downing, so we're going to switch it to attack side and close it out. So very, very close game. I'll win it 3-2. So well done, FaceOnMars. Well, nicely played. And like I said, I think there's just a few things that you can clean up, and they'll make a huge improvement to your game. A lot of this stuff comes from playing specific matches over and over and over again, doing a lot of homework, looking at the interactions in different game states, like post-acrobatics, knowing that increase of 2.0 speed just makes Dragon Jack incredible. Little stuff like that. Knowing when to go in against somebody in dragon form. All that good stuff. It definitely comes in time. I didn't really learn how to play Rook properly until, I would say, at least 6 to 8 months, maybe even longer than that, after I started playing online. So give yourself a year to get scary. I don't think it's going to take a full year. You're definitely way ahead a lot of people that just throw themselves right into the game. Men tournament was a huge, huge boon to a lot of people, and I very much look forward to you making your mark in the ongoing tournaments online. So thanks everybody for watching. Thank you FaceOnMars for the great match, And if you'd like to get involved in Yomi at all, again, everything is in the description below. You can see all the links for that. And I will see you next time. And until then, enjoy yourself some Yomi.